So, you want to own a private island, your own piece of land, surrounded by water with nobody else on it. No neighbors, no noise. Just you, the sea, and a horizon that belongs to you. Here is the fantasy, and it might be the most powerful daydream in this entire series. You find an island. The price is lower than you expected, sometimes shockingly lower, less than a modest house in a big city. You buy it. And from that day on, you own paradise. That fantasy is real. Islands sell for those prices. People buy them. And almost every one of those buyers discovers the same thing within the first year. Buying the island was the easy part. And it was also the cheap part. Because an island is not a house with a nice view. An island is a piece of land that has been deliberately cut off from every service that makes modern life possible. No water main reaches it. No power line runs to it. No road leads to it. No sewer, no gas, no delivery van. No easy way for a builder to arrive with a truck full of materials. Everything that a normal property plugs into, an island has to generate, carry, or build from scratch. And that, not the purchase price, is the true cost of paradise. This is the full ledger. Why islands are so surprisingly cheap to buy. Why getting water and power onto one can cost more than the land itself. Why building anything on an island is a logistical nightmare. The ways owners try to make one pay. And the honest question you have to answer before you fall in love with a dot on a map. Start with why they are cheap. The buy-in, a first shock for most people, is that private islands are far more affordable to buy than they imagined. Around the world, small islands change hands for prices that would not buy a nice apartment in a major city. That number is real, and it is the number that gets shared, screenshotted, and dreamed over. But ask the obvious question. If owning an island is the ultimate dream, why are so many of them so cheap? That answer is the whole video. They are cheap to buy, precisely because they are so expensive to use. A low price is not a bargain. It is the market pricing in everything that comes after, and the market is right. An island's price depends on a few things, and understanding them tells you exactly where the costs are hiding. Proximity matters enormously. An island, a short boat ride from a well-serviced town with power and water available nearby, is worth many times more than an identical island far out to sea, closer to civilization, and the less of civilization you have to build yourself, and the price reflects that precisely. Existing infrastructure matters even more. An island with a functioning house, a proven fresh water supply, a dock, and a power system is worth vastly more than a bare rock, because somebody has already spent the money and taken the risk to make it habitable. A raw, undeveloped island is cheap for the same reason a project boat is cheap. A purchase is the beginning of the spending, not the end of it. And the country matters. Rules about who can own land, what you can build, and what you are allowed to do with a coastline vary enormously. And some of the cheapest islands are cheap because the ownership or development rules make them extremely difficult to actually use. So, the price you see is never the cost. It is the invitation to start spending. And that invitation is unusually easy to accept because the entry fee is so low. A cheap island feels like a decision you can make almost casually, the way you might buy a car. And that accessibility is exactly what makes it dangerous. Expensive things force people to do the sums. Cheap things tempt people to skip them. The island that costs less than a family car invites you to buy first and calculate later, which is the precise order in which this particular dream goes wrong. What you inherit. Buy the island, and here is what you have actually taken on. First and above everything, water. Fresh water is the single hardest problem on most islands, and it is the one people underestimate most. A mainland house turns a tap. An island has no tap to turn. You are looking at collecting rainwater, drilling a well, and hoping for fresh water rather than salt. Desalinating seawater with expensive equipment that needs power and maintenance, or physically shipping water across. Every one of those is a cost, a system to maintain, and a point of failure. On an island, Water is not a utility. It is a project. And it is a project with no holiday. A tap on the mainland works whether you think about it or not. An island water system needs monitoring, maintenance, spare parts, and someone who understands it. And if it fails while you are there, you do not call the water company. You solve it yourself, or you leave. That shift from consuming a service to operating a system repeats across every single utility on the island. And it is the deepest difference between island life and the mainland life the buyer is used to. Second, power. No cable runs out to your island, so you generate your own. That means generators burning fuel that has to be shipped in, or solar and battery systems that cost a great deal to install and still need backup, or some combination that a specialist has to design and maintain. Lights that cost pennies on the mainland become one of your largest ongoing expenses. There is a quiet cascade hidden in this, too. Power is not just for lights. Your water system may need power to pump or desalinate. Refrigeration needs power. Communication needs power. On an island, electricity is not one utility among many. It is the utility the others depend on, which is why owners obsess over it, build in redundancy, and still lie awake listening for the generator to skip. Lose power on the mainland and you are inconvenienced. Lose it on an island and several other systems fail with it. Third, transport. And this one shapes your entire life on the island. You need a boat, and probably more than one. You need somewhere to keep it. A dock or a mooring, which is itself a serious construction project, exposed to the sea. Every person, every bag of shopping, every guest, every worker, and every single building material arrives by water, on your schedule and your fuel, in whatever the weather allows. Fourth, building. This is where dreams meet arithmetic. Constructing anything on an island costs dramatically more than the same building on the mainland, because every brick, every plank, every bag of cement, and every tradesperson has to be transported across water, often in small loads, weather permitting. A build that would be routine on land becomes a slow, expensive, logistically brutal campaign. Owners routinely spend far more building a modest island home than the island itself cost. That single sentence is the one most island buyers wish they had heard first. It is entirely normal for the construction of a comfortable home to dwarf the purchase price, because every element of the build carries a transport penalty that mainland builders never think about. A load of timber, a concrete pour, a delayed tradesman waiting on a boat, a crane that has to be barged in, all of it multiplies. The house you imagined for the price of a mainland house can quietly become the price of a mainland mansion, and the island was supposed to be the cheap part. Fifth, waste and sewage, which has to be handled entirely on the island, with systems that comply with environmental rules designed to protect the very water that surrounds you. Sixth, the sea itself, which is patient and relentless. Erosion, storms, salt corrosion, and the simple power of water working on everything you build. An island is under permanent assault from the environment that makes it beautiful, and maintenance is not occasional. It is the condition of ownership. Seventh, a caretaker. Most island owners cannot be there all the time, and an unattended island is an invitation to storm damage, theft, and slow decay. So, you are often paying someone to live on or near the island and look after it, which is a salary on top of everything else. And eighth, permits and rules. Building on a coastline, affecting a marine environment, and developing an island are heavily regulated in most places, and getting permission to do what you imagined can be slow, expensive, and sometimes impossible. The revenue layers. So can an island earn its keep? There are a few ways, and they are harder than the brochures suggest. Layer 1 is the rental or resort model. An island with good accommodation in a desirable location can be rented to holidaymakers or run as a small exclusive resort. This is the dream that many island buyers cling to, the idea that guests will pay for paradise and cover the costs. It can work, but only where the island is developed to a high standard, marketed properly, accessible enough for guests to reach, and run as a real hospitality business with all the staff and complexity that implies. Bare Island earns nothing. A developed resort island is a serious operation, not a passive income stream. Layer 2 is events. Weddings, retreats, corporate gatherings, and exclusive private hire. A beautiful island is a spectacular venue, and for the right property in the right place, this can be meaningful income, though it depends entirely on access and development. Layer 3 is agriculture or resource use on larger islands. Farming, aquaculture, or similar, which is a genuine business, but a completely different one from the Paradise Dream, and rarely what a private buyer has in mind. Layer 4, and this is the one that actually works for many owners, is appreciation. A well-chosen island, improved thoughtfully in a stable and desirable location, can rise in value over time. Land is finite, and islands are a fixed supply, and the owners who do best financially are often the ones who bought well, developed sensibly, and sold to the next dreamer at a profit years later. The island did not earn income. It stored and grew value. This is worth separating cleanly from the resort dream, because the two get confused constantly. Appreciation is passive and patient. You buy well, you hold, you maintain, and years later, the finite supply of desirable islands and the next dreamer's enthusiasm do the work. A resort is active and relentless. You develop heavily, you staff, you market, you operate a hospitality business in a remote location. Both can work, but one asks for patience and the other asks for a career. And confusing which one you actually want is how island projects stall halfway between them. Too developed to be cheap and too undeveloped to earn. But notice what every earning layer has in common. They all require the island to be developed. And development is exactly the enormous cost we have just described. You cannot earn from the island until you have spent the fortune that makes it usable. Listen to that again. Here is the single most important idea in island ownership, and it is the exact opposite of what the low prices suggest. The purchase price of an island is often the smallest number you will ever spend on it. Say that again. Land is cheap because using the land is expensive. Water, power, a dock, transport, building, waste, maintenance against the sea, and a caretaker to watch it all can and frequently do add up to many times the price of the island itself. A cheap island is not a bargain. It is a down payment on a lifetime of solving problems that the mainland solves for you invisibly and for almost nothing. This is why so many private islands sit undeveloped for years or come back onto the market barely changed from when they were bought. Somebody fell in love with the price, bought the dream, added up the true cost of making it real, and quietly stopped. Islands for sale are often, like the nearly new yachts, a museum of exactly that realization. People who are happy owning an island understood, before they bought, that the price on the listing was the entrance fee, and the real cost was everything on the other side of the door. The ledger, the cost sheet, then water generated or collected or shipped, a system to build and maintain forever. Power generated on the island, fueled or solar, always with backup. Transport, boats, their fuel, their maintenance, and a dock exposed to the sea. Building at a large premium over mainland costs for anything you construct. Waste and sewage systems that meet environmental rules. Maintenance against constant salt, storm, and erosion. A caretaker, salaried, to protect the island when you are not there. Insurance on a remote coastal property exposed to extreme weather, which is difficult and expensive. Permits, compliance, and professional advice for anything you develop. Local taxes and ownership costs, which vary by country. And the cost of reaching your own property every trip in fuel and time and weather. Add it together, and the pattern is unmistakable. The purchase was a single comprehensible number. Everything after it is large, ongoing, and driven entirely by the fact that you chose to own a place the modern world was never plumbed to reach. The trap. The trap here is the purest dream in the series, and it is built out of a single photograph. You are buying a picture and living a logistics problem. Here, is how it catches people. That image is irresistible. A green island, a blue sea, a price that seems impossibly low for paradise. A buyer sees the photograph and buys the feeling. Nobody in that moment is thinking about desalination plants, generator maintenance, or how a cement mixer gets across 2 miles of open water. Then reality arrives, one system at a time. A well comes up salty. A generator needs a part that takes weeks to ship. Storm damages the dock. A builder's quote for the modest house is triple what it would be on land. A caretaker needs paying, whether you visit or not. And the owner slowly realizes they did not buy a holiday. They bought a small, remote, permanent infrastructure project surrounded by water. A second trap is the resort fantasy, and it mirrors the yacht's charter dream exactly. The buyer justifies the cost by imagining rental income, guests paying for paradise, the island covering its keep. But a rentable island requires enormous development first, sits in a competitive market, depends entirely on access, and demands to be run as a real hospitality business. That income, supposed to make it affordable, only exists after a fortune has been spent making it possible, and most owners never reach that point. How the survivors do it. So who owns an island happily? First, they buy for usability, not for the photograph. They prioritize proximity to a serviced mainland, existing infrastructure, a proven water supply, and a country with sane ownership rules. A slightly less romantic island that is actually livable beats a perfect-looking rock that will bankrupt them. Their dream is refined by the logistics before the purchase, not after. Second, they budget for the true cost, not the price. They work out what water, power, transport, building, and maintenance will really cost before they buy. They add a large margin for the unexpected, and they only proceed if the whole number, not the listing number, is one they can carry. Happy owners priced the island the way the market did, as the entrance fee to a much larger commitment. Third, they develop incrementally and sensibly. Rather than attempting a grand build all at once, the successful owners solve the fundamentals first: water, power, a safe dock, a modest livable base, and grow from there as budget allows. They respect that everything takes longer and costs more on an island. Fourth, if they want income, they either commit fully to developing a real resort operation with eyes open, or they do not rely on income at all and treat the island as consumption. Disasters come from the middle ground, expecting passive income from a half-developed island. Fifth, they think about resale from the beginning. A clearest financial path in island ownership is usually appreciation. So they buy in a stable, desirable location, improve thoughtfully, keep everything well maintained, and understand that selling well to the next dreamer is often where the actual return lives. Sixth, they make peace with the sea. They accept that maintenance is permanent, that weather governs their access, and that the environment which makes the island beautiful is also constantly trying to reclaim it. Owners who fight that reality are miserable. Those who accept it are content. The verdict. So, should you own a private island? If you are asking whether a cheap island is a bargain, then no. And the low price is the warning, not the opportunity. A cost of owning and using an island is many times its purchase price, and anyone who sells you the listing figure as the real cost is selling you a dream with the bill hidden behind it. If you are asking whether serious money can be made, the answer is a qualified yes, but through appreciation or through a fully committed resort business, not through the passive paradise the fantasy imagines. And if you are asking whether it is worth it as a way of living, then that, like the yacht, is a deeply personal question. And for a certain kind of person, the answer is an emphatic yes. Genuine solitude, a piece of the world that is entirely yours, a horizon with no one else in it. These are things a certain soul values above almost anything, and for them, the enormous cost is the price of a freedom nothing else can buy. Here is the good year. You bought a livable island, close enough to a serviced coast, with water and power already solved or solvable. You developed sensibly and within budget. The systems work. The weather is kind. You spend a season in complete peace, in a place that belongs entirely to you, and the value of the island quietly rises while you enjoy it. Now, the bad year. You bought the cheap, remote, romantic one. Well water comes up salt. Build costs triple the estimate. A storm takes the dock, and the insurance is a nightmare. A generator dies, and the part is 3 weeks away. Caretaker is paid while you cannot even reach your own island through the weather. And paradise becomes a distant, expensive problem you visit less and less. Same island, almost. What separates them is whether you bought the photograph or the logistics. Thesis close. Every other asset in this series was built by people to do a job. A tug works, a shipyard builds, a cargo plane flies. Even the pure pleasure of a yacht was engineered and manufactured for that pleasure. An island is different. Nobody built it. It is a piece of the earth that the sea happened to surround, and in doing so, cut off from every convenience the modern world quietly delivers to everywhere else. That separation is the entire fantasy. No neighbors, no noise, no one else. And that exact same separation is the entire cost. No water, no power, no road, no easy way to build or reach or maintain a single thing. You cannot buy the solitude without buying the isolation, because they are the same fact seen from two sides. You are not buying paradise. You are buying distance from everything, and then paying, for as long as you own it, to bring a little of that everything back.